It was my job to care for my fat brother and my fatter sister-in-law as they slowly ate themselves to death. I went to live with them once it became impossible for either one to leave their house. At the time, they weighed a combined 1,913 pounds. Opening the front door was, at that point, the worst experience of my life. That record would go on to be topped many times in the ensuing days. The smell? Oh my god, the smell was unbearable. It caressed me in a slow lick and I vomited immediately into the front hallway. I quickly lost sight of my puke and the mess on the floor. My clothes were instantly ruined and I spent every night in the doghouse out back, despite the freezing temperatures. I never changed my clothes because the smell had desecrated them and there was no point in destroying any more. Besides, I couldn't even detect my own B.O. Gorp and Rena sat together in the corner of their bedroom, both far too fat to wear any clothes. In the beginning, I tried to give them sponge baths. Ow, you fucker, Gorp yelled as he hit me with a massive tree trunk of an arm. While his muscles were weak, the sheer momentum of a 100-pound appendage was enough to blast dizzying shockwaves of pain through my head and send me sprawling onto the infested ground. I rolled over immediately, not wanting to breathe in the particular matter that had collected on the floor. I sat up quickly. Why'd you do that, Gorp? I spat angrily. His greasy hair obscured much of his face, making his reaction hard to read. I could tell that he was pulling his head back in disgust, since his face had collapsed against his skin so that it was flush with his chest. Gorp raised an arm and showed me. My mouth watered in the way that precipitates all vomit, and I felt dizzy once more. My furious scrubbing had ruptured a slab of malnourished skin, which sloughed off and was now hanging like a festering dingleberry. Layers of fat had burst through the opening as though they had longed for escape. As I watched, the cut slowly creeped open, wider and wider, a fraction of an inch at a time. Yellowy white lard slid out into the open like a slow-motion whale breaching the water for much-needed air. You need to get to a hospital, I gasped. He threw the half-full bedpan at me. It clanged against my skull and spilled its contents into my hair, deep in my ears and down my neck, soaking my shirt. The stench of the house was so strong that I didn't smell a thing. You need to get me another pizza, you dick, he screeched, each of his 7 chins jiggling even more than the last. Rena giggled, which alerted me to her own thrown bedpan. I ducked. It soared through the window and landed on the sidewalk. Leave it! She screamed. You can clean my mess directly off the floor! I started to cry. It doesn't have to be like this. Obesity doesn't make you bad people. There are plenty of housebound sufferers who have wonderful hearts. Gorp punched his hand through the wall, sending a cascade of plaster and ants to the floor. My size doesn't make me who I am. I make me who I am. Just like you're a little piece of shit because you chose to be a little piece of shit. He flashed a toothless smile. Rena chortled. The tears were rolling down my soiled face. You're going to die, Gorp. What do you want? He stared at me, black beady eyes barely visible through his greasy hair. Finally, he nodded and looked at Rena. He reached his pudgy sausage fingers out to her, and she scrambled to find his. But their girth prevented such a union. Instead, she rested a hand on one of his flesh rolls. A ripple radiated upward along the surface of his fat. She smiled. It's time, Gorp! He hitched a sob. I love every ounce of you! With that, he pitched forward, rolling like cake batter down a hill. His face collided with her fat. She repeated this motion, so that each of their heads buried in each other's flesh. With a crunch like apples, both began to chew. Blood and fat filled their mouths, body leaks turning into sprays. Each gobbled the other hungrily as their flesh turned into food. Rena looked at me with red teeth and smiled. I ran out of the house and never came back. I was never able to give either one a proper burial because no remains could positively discern. When the coroner arrived at the house, all she could find was a room filled with 18 inches high with gelatinous viscera.